What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Fourth and 15 with Mel and Smooth. I am Mel. Joining me, as always, is Ronnie Big Smooth Hennigan. Smooth, what's happening, man?
Not a whole lot, Mel. You know, these weekends be crazy, bro. But what I will
We
tell you
mostly
is
here.
that oh, yeah, you already know, man. I mean, I made it through. You made it through. Our guest is here. You know what I mean? So we doing all right, man. We doing all right.
And speaking of our guest, we are continuing the Hometown Legend series. So, without further ado, all the way from Akron, Ohio, by way of West Liberty and Akron University, EJ Burt. EJ, welcome to the show, sir.
What's going on, fellas? Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being on, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate it.
I'm gonna apologize ahead of time because you already know, as you see in my shirt, I am a Steelers fan. We do play the Bills tonight, and I am nervous, so I need all the luck for us we can get because the Chiefs won, and I thought they was gonna lose to it. You let me down,
Mm.
but it's okay. Um, so, Coach, give us your background from humble beginnings. You know, you being from Akron, what was life like growing up for you?
Well, my family and everybody's from Akron. I ended up moving out to the suburbs out in Stowe, Ohio. And just growing up, I had my older brothers beating me up every single day, making me a little bit tougher, getting me ready for football and stuff like that. And I finally warmed up, and they finally broke me down to play football. And it was from there it's just uphill, like down here just playing ball, just loving the game, you know. And then football's taking me everywhere from Stowe to West Liberty to Canada, Hamilton, and then arena ball and coaching college, high school. Just took me all over the place.
We're actually gonna get into that because I was wondering what was it like because we know, Stowe has a very good football team from time to time,
hmm
and we never, because me and Ronnie went to the same school, so we never really saw Stowe. We just saw them on the news and in the newspaper. So what was it like? What was that atmosphere like for you, being at Stowe, being arguably probably one of the best players on the team? If I'm not mistaken, around that time they were hitting state playoffs a couple
My
of times.
my senior year, we ended up going to the state playoffs and losing first round. I forget the name of the team, but one of those teams from that Cleveland area.
Uh, okay.
But,
So
but
I guess we should mention that we from Cleveland too. So sorry about that.
nah,
It
Apologies.
w-
growing up, it was different because Akron, the demographics of Akron and demographics of those two different things. So go
Very
from
true.
in Akron, the demographics is a lot of people who look like me, and then you go to Stowe, where coming up, I think I was like the only black kid in my school until about sixth grade.
Wow.
wow. Yeah.
It was a lot of getting used to, you know, different, every area has different kind of problems, different kind of struggles or whatever, but, I still had my family that, I went to, what I experienced during the week at stuff, different scenario from what I experienced with my family.
You understand that? We've been to the suburbs a few times. So you
Hmm.
guys make the state in your senior year, and then you start the offers start coming in. If I did my research right, you chose Akron U first. What made you choose Akron?
It was, I wanted to stay local at first. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Coming up, I didn't have the a lot of, I guess, mentorship as far as, hey, choose this college. This is the process you need to follow. So at first, I almost went to a Division 3 school, and it probably not the three, but I was going for the wrong reasons. I was going there because my boys was going, and then and at the last minute, I kind of backed out. Like, wait a minute, they don't have my major. I was just going to hang out with my boys. So I went to Akron U, and to get my grades up, I was on academic probation, trying to get myself together and figure out whether I was going to stay at Akron U or I was going to go somewhere else. So, but then I was strictly a student when I was at Akron because I didn't know what I was going to do yet. And then by the time I got off the academic probation, I figured for me to succeed, I need to get away from Akron. I know all the trouble there is to get into. I know everybody, so I needed to go see some. I needed to change the scenery, and that's how I ended up at West Liberty.
All right. Now, West Liberty, a very good school, very good team at the time. There's a picture of you that I came across. I couldn't get it in time. What was with the smoking of the cigars in the locker room? And whose idea was that?
See, I was the person kind of still in. If you see me with a cigar, you better hold on to that picture. You don't see that too often. I ain't a big smoker or drinker, so when you see, hold on to that picture, and that's what it is. So that surfaced because that was when we won the conference championship. So somebody they broke out the cigars or whatever, and I ended up somehow I was like, hey, EJ, go ahead and take a hit of the cigar. So I wasn't even thinking I knew it was camera. By the time I got it in my mouth, next thing you know, I see cameras flash, and it is what it is. I got me.
Right.
I did want to ask this because we were getting into it, but um, you make your way from West Liberty to Canada, and what was the experience like in Canada for those that don't know and are wondering what Canadian football is like?
So Canadian football, instead of 11 man, it's you got 12 on your team. Every team has only so many Americans that they can have. So um, the process of making the team is a little bit more difficult because if they can only have five, let's just say they allot for maybe two or three defensive linemen, just throw a number out there. If you number four, you have to be so good that makes them cut whoever they already got on the team. And when I got up there, I was run up against a guy who was a 2 or 3 time defensive player of the year. His name is Joe Munford. So I wasn't competing with him. I wasn't gonna beat him out. He was too good. He was in his prime, and I'm still trying to figure out what kind of player I'm gonna be. But my experience up there, that man was so good. I just sat back and watching what he do. And so by the time I ended up getting cut when I went up there because I couldn't beat that man out. But I left with something. I left with his moves. I borrowed it. So I didn't go up there and waste my time and waste their time. I went out there trying my best. I didn't make the team. But like I said, I ended up learning old boys' moves. And by the time I went to arena, I was killing it in the arena using his moves and a little bit of what I already knew before I went to Canada.
You actually, watching your career, you became one of the most feared defensive linemen in arena football, which is something not a lot of guys can say. And for me, watching you on my favorite team, it was a blessing because we was winning. I was a Braves fan, so seeing you hit the quarterback, seeing Idris come up the middle and flush him to you, I was like, yeah, I could deal with this. Not to mention, you couldn't throw the ball because you had Kenny McIntyre and Damon Mason on either side, and you didn't. Most teams didn't really know what to do.
Yeah,
So,
fact, like when I was there, our defense is pretty good, and like the Predators always make the right players when it comes to locking down teams on defense and trying to put up points on offense and also manage the game. Jay Gruden was good at putting the defensive lineman in the position to eat. Get up by 14, 20 team have to 5-step, and that's where the defensive line we come into play. And then the DBs be locking it down in the secondary, making it easy for us.
now I read this, and wanted to know because okay, let me start over. What made you move to Philly? That was the thing that broke my heart. Like I thought they was gonna re-sign you. I'm like, yeah, we got the defense coming back. We should be good. I believe Joe Hamilton was quarterback at the time. So I was like, oh, we're gonna be all right. And I didn't even pay attention to the off season in the AFL because you usually don't hear about it at that time unless you check the website. And season start, come to find out you in a Philadelphia uniform. What happened?
Money happened,
Hey,
and
Of
and
course.
a lot of the players and Brett Muncie, who was with us in Orlando, he went up there. So on top of getting paid, I went up there to a situation that was, it may be a different scenario, but it's familiar based on the coaching staff that was up there and a couple of my buddies that went up there with me. So it wasn't like I was going into a complete brand new situation. It felt like it was, we used to clown around and call ourselves Predators North because that's kind of what it turned into. We had a lot of the players and a lot of the coaches that ended up going up there.
And that was so heartbreaking because I was like, man, who screwed up, man? Like I was cussing out Gruden, I was cussing out Joe, Kenny. I cussed out in my head. I cussed out just about half the team. I didn't even know nobody in the front office. So I just cussed out the whole front office. So I was like,
you know,
man, you gotta think about it, man. You gotta think about it. And not being funny, but historically in the AFL, the Predators are one of the best teams ever. Like they're one of the most winningest teams in the history of the league. They were always known for a defense, and you let your best defensive lineman go, and it was like, we trying to win a championship. What happened?
Man, but the Braves are always good at recruiting good players. Because you know who came after me? That boy Greg White, who they call Styles White now. It just happens. It happens like that. If I go get another opportunity somewhere else, they'll find somebody and they'll be all right. And when he left, they'll find somebody else to bring in. Like it just Predators is a good situation to fall into.
see, that make perfect sense because you figure, like you said, when you went up there, it wasn't like a brand new situation. It wasn't like to the point where, you didn't know anybody and there was no familiarity at all. Because a lot of times, you got cats that will do that and be like starting from scratch almost. Because you
Mm-hmm.
don't know anybody up in there. You're not sure what kind of style of ball they're going to be, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, well, here I go again. I am a pro, so at the same time, I know I can make that adjustment. But if you don't have to do that, that makes it a little bit easier to transition.
Mm-hmm.
And, I didn't have any idea either. Just hearing you say that, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Because it took me back to like when me and Mel were playing in high school together. And we had so many guys that we knew from Collinwood that, went over to Glenville. And they were like more than a third of the team at the time, too. It was like that many people that defected over there. And I
Mm-hmm.
kept thinking, like, man, okay, I kind of get like why they did it. I know we were more so prideful in terms of trying to, stick together and all that. But a
Mm-hmm.
couple of our guests that we've had before that we talked to and explained that situation, they go, well, the difference was, okay, school pride is one thing, but, DeVille's promising, those scholarships,
Mm-hmm.
what I mean, to get into these different schools. Like, they were like a, pedigree for like OSU and places like that. So you figure if that's my chance to get in, there's my chance to get in. And
Yeah.
thinking back, it's like, it makes more sense now, but as a teenager, you ain't thinking about that. But with you, EJ, man, I gotta ask too, like, because just seeing, how dominant you were, man, I gotta find out from you, what was like your most impressive game, I would say, in your mind? Like, I know we can go look at stats and stuff like that, but you as a player, when you're on the field, what game do you remember that was like you feel like it was your best game?
I mean, that's tough to say because a lot of times people who I play with remember more of the game than I do.
Got you.
Like, when I played, I didn't think about it. I just played. Like, I couldn't think about stuff. And I remember talking to um, my boy Jeff Higgins, and this is when I was in the AF2 because I had that 27 and a half sacks in the season there. And so there was one game I think I had like 5 sacks in the game, and I don't remember this. I had to go back in the film to actually see it, but there was a series I had 3 sacks in a row, first down, second down, third down, and they had to kick the ball. But I don't, like I said, I had to go back into the film. Oh yeah, they did do that. I did get 3 in a row. I think versus Albany or something like that, and that's when I first broke the they had the they say 20 sacks or 20 and a half sacks was like the record for any professional player or something like that. And that's the game where I broke that. I think I ended up with 21 or 22 after that game or whatever. So, that's, for me, that was probably one of the games where I could probably say it's probably one of my best games. I had a couple with the Predators, but I don't know if I had four in a game like I did then.
Either
I
way,
came
it's
across,
impressive.
yeah, it is. But I came across this and I wanted to ask, Fran Papasadero, great guy. He
Man,
had said one time that you on defense wasn't the problem. He was trying to get you to play offense, and that didn't dawn on me when I read it that was still at the point where you still playing Iron Man football in the league,
mm-hmm.
and they were worried about you playing offense, but when you finally came around, you made them look like geniuses. When you heard that, I don't know if you have heard that, but how did that make you feel hearing that from such a highly regarded coach like Frank?
Man, Fran was the man. Like that's still to this day hurts me to think about, what happened to that man. Like that man, like he was a genius, and me coaching, I kind of take a piece of what he does as a coach. So, he said me on defense wasn't an issue. So in my mind, that's my background. That's where my confidence lies. My confidence lies in my defense. So when I came down here, it was only a 2-day workout. Like I didn't get a contract right off the bat. I was talking to Fran and Jay, and they're like, you come down for a 2-3 day or 2-day waiver workout, and we'll see what happens. And I remember Jay saying, if you think you're good enough to make this team, pack to stay. And this is when I was living in Fayetteville. So I went ahead and packed up all my stuff and came down. And right off the bat, they put me on like some of their best players on the line. And I did my thing on there, but the knock on me was my size. So if you put me around that time, I was about 250. You put me on like Ernest Allen, me trying to block Ernest Allen or some of them big 300 pounders that can move. When you thinking about it, it's like, man, can he hold up blocking up against that man? And so the piece of my coaching game that I took from Fran is either you gonna grow up and be a man, or you gonna get ran over and get cut from the team. It's on you as a man to figure out what you're gonna do. So what Fran ended up doing is he put Ernest Allen on me. I don't know if you know who Ernest Allen is, but that's probably
We
one of
know.
the great players ever play that game. And they put that man on me everywhere I went. All the bull rush, they put them on me. And either I was gonna grow up and figure out how to block, or I was gonna get ran over and just be a story of what he could have been. And so in coaching today, that's what I do. If I got a player with some potential, I'm gonna put that best player. If you're a freshman in high school playing varsity, I'm gonna put that senior, that best man on you. Either you gonna grow up, or you gonna cry and tell everybody how the coach put the best man on me. Well, if I want you to be good, then I'm gonna put you on the best man, and either you gonna grow up or you gonna cry.
Speaking of
Been there
coaching,
before.
yeah, we all have. I don't like to remember those days.
And
Personally.
I hate it.
We all did. But speaking of coaching, you brought something up, so I'm asking for personal reasons. We use a picture of you getting a sack on now Chicago Bears head coach Matt Nagy. But when that sack happened, he was a quarterback for the Georgia Force.
Mm-hmm.
You tell your players that you hit the coach of the Chicago Bears as for fun references, or do you just keep that a secret?
That ain't no secret. You tell everybody that. Put on to that. You on that. He the head coach of the Chicago Bears. While he there, everybody gonna know that I sacked him when he was in Georgia.
Hey, I have to ask because some of the guys we've had Atu Molden on, we've had Damon on. Some of them remain humble and modest, so I figure I'd ask because I know me personally, if I got a hit on somebody, I'm letting them know, hey, look, I hit him.
I mean, I ain't no bragger or nothing like that, but if there's any opportunity to speak out and say, hey, I did that, now would be the time to do that. What happens if that man get cut? You're gonna be like, oh, remember that guy that was the coach last year? I sacked him. You know what I mean? I'd rather tell you now that way you can watch a Bears game. Be like, yeah, my coach sacked that dude.
I hear that.
I can't even be mad at that. That's awesome. That was awesome. And I you know what? I had forgot he was in Georgia. We, in the midst of trying to get you, and we reached out to Shredrick Bonner, and then we found Troy Bergeron, and we reached out to him.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember, damn, really, Matt Nagy was in Georgia. I forgot all about that. So seeing this is bringing back a lot of good memories for me as a fan watching arena football at the height of the league's popularity, being on NBC. The video game came out, so I was. Speaking of which, did you ever get the video game when it came out?
Oh yeah, I got that video game, so I could play. I had that arena game. I'm gonna be able to play myself on arena game. You better go ahead and capitalize on that while you can.
There you go. Because I was thinking that we showed Atu and Damon that, and I remember asking Atu if he had it. He said, yeah, he still had it, and he did play as himself. I was like, man, that's awesome. That had to be an awesome feeling. And the crazy part about it is when you put the game in and let it play out, it was a different intro sequence every time. So we get to see you hitting somebody. I don't know if they're still alive, but you hit them. They have a video of the Arena Football's biggest hit on YouTube, and you're on there too. I don't know if that person is alive either, but you're on there doing something, committing murder that's legal. And like, you don't understand, man. Like, watching you hit a quarterback, it wasn't heartbreaking, but it was more like, man, I don't want to see that. I don't want that to be me. How about that? I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't. Like, if you was a quarterback,
it had to be that guy.
It's funny that you say that because that's one of my speeches. Like, I ain't a big speech guy, but I always have the same line when I'm giving a speech. I remember when I got inducted into the Hall of Fame at West Lib. I gave the team a speech before the game, and it dawned on me in the middle of talking because I'm not no speech guy, but it came to me. I was like, man, y'all better enjoy this time playing football because there's no life where you can go ahead and hit somebody and not have to worry about getting arrested. Like, there's a defensive lineman, I think, for Auburn last year. He said the same exact thing, and that dude became one of my favorite players. Like, you cut from the same cloth. The way you say that, like, because he said the same exact thing. He's just like, what I love about this game is you can get hit. You ain't got to worry about getting arrested. You ain't got to worry about making no headlines. And that was my mindset. And so what was funny, it also is because Ernest Allen was my roommate. And
Jesus.
Two different dudes that try to take your head off, but there's two different personalities. Ernest might growl at you and be barking and all that stuff and try to take you out. And they called me silent assassin because I didn't want to talk to nobody. I'd be sitting in the corner of my hoodie on or whatever. Like, I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to make eye contact, but I'd be trying to kill you just like Ernest would be trying to kill you.
And that's the crazy part because them the one that was the D lineman you had to worry about the worst, the one that don't talk. Because the one that do talk, all you gotta do is just tell you your tight end / guard. All right, look, cut him. I don't care what else you do, cut him. I ain't worried about him.
Exactly.
Him over here, we might have to do something with. You gotta do something. Tell him a story, spit in his ear. Just keep him off me. How about that?
Nah, it was fun time. Like I said, there was some dudes with more moves than me, but my whole thing was I'm gonna go full speed every single time, and you gonna wear out before I do.
I feel that, man, because you got to keep the pressure on them. You know what I mean? And you figure, just from a D lineman perspective, anyway, you know, I'm coming at you every play. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know what you got set up on offense, but I'm coming at you every play. That's just what I have to do. And whatever scheme you got, it's like I'm gonna do what I gotta do to get to you, and just know that however many quarters, it don't matter. I'm not slowing up. I
Mm-hmm.
love that mentality, man, because for me, I've always done, defensive end when I was playing, and then also a little bit of center on the opposite side to kind of see both sides of the line. And it was just crazy because, like, it's something about that D end spot, man, or just D line in general. Like, you just got to have a certain level of instinct. You know what I'm saying? You can't just be out here like half doing it or, thinking about something else at the time because you'll get hurt. You know what I mean? But I do want to, also ask you about this. So, EJ, like, you were saying how you're not much of a speech guy, which I get because, I mean, I know for me, I don't want to say too much. But at the same time, if there is something that you could say to some of the younger viewers that may be looking outside of, like, just being an opportunity for them to, hit somebody and, not get arrested or something like that, what would you tell them based off of your experience from your time frame in Westlake up until this point?
Just believe in yourself and don't fear nobody. Like, that was it. Like, you had your dream as a football player, as whatever. Don't let somebody come along and try to tell you what you can't do because either they don't want you to achieve it or they don't think that you can. Like, they don't have confidence in you. And a lot of people get scared because, maybe that dude is twice their size or something. And the way they scares them. Like, I can't say it like I want to say it because I don't know how y'all language little thing goes on here. But
Oh man,
you don't fear no man. Let's say it like that. If you believe in something, you go ahead and take, you go full speed and try to get it.
With that. Yeah, because I know, man, like, I had a similar situation. So I remember I was playing center. We were going up against, like, and Mel know this game too. Remember the Warrensville game?
man, which one? Wait a minute, wait. Was it the
The
fight
first one,
or is it the one we had Bedford where they had that ugly ass carpet?
Bedford, the Bedford game. Because
Okay, what's that game?
that's probably the hardest game I think I played in, only because I had to go up against Patterson the whole time. And that was a big dude, man. Because, I
Yeah,
mean,
I
at the
think
time, I was
like
maybe,
the ice pack on that one.
oh, man, I was barely 250 at the time. And I'm playing center, and this dude, like, 320 pounds at nose. And they want me to take him on one-on-one. Horrible. I ain't never been that sore in my life, man. On all levels of football, all of them. Like, that was
Okay.
ridiculous.
This just in, according
Uh-oh.
to not to cut you guys off, but according to the New York Times. I'm not gonna say the New York Times are incredible, but sometimes they throw out some things that might be premature. But from what this is looking like, this might be legit. According to the New York Times, the Cleveland Indians will be dropping their name, Native American imagery, and logo. I'm done with Cleveland baseball.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
I'm done
We're
with
going to talk
Cleveland
about that. You know we're going to talk about that after this segment. We know we're going to have
baseball.
to.
Yeah, I know, but
Got to do it.
this our friend of the show, Josh, just hit us up with this, and I just looked it up. So yeah, we're gonna have to touch this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. With that being said, Coach, where are you at now
You
with
breaking up?
after? What's going on with you with retirement, post retirement rather?
You breaking up? I don't know if you're saying something to me or not.
Hold on,
Okay.
let me get my mic. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you
Yep.
now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was saying, what's going on with you post retirement? What's life after football looking like?
See, right now I'm a behavior intervention specialist, which is fancy for a dean down here in the school system here in Florida. I'm doing that, but I'm also doing a couple things right now. I got this this app I'm working on called Ball Class. So if you go to the website ballclass.com, it's basically like a virtual learning app that basically teaches you the game of football. So it has like two different functions. It functions for just a kid that's just trying to learn the game, and it can help teach them the game. It can help them when they're high school senior looking to get recruited. It basically, there's a series of tests and stuff on there, and then when you take the test, it records all your scores. And then if you're college coaches, they sick of players coming into college, coming into camp, and they don't know the game. They say, hey,
Mm-hmm.
you got the B gap on this play, and kids don't even know what the B gap is. Or they say, I need you to line up in a 3, and they don't even know what a 3 is. So it basically teaches them the game. That way they be prepared when they get to college. And it also has a function for coaches where if I'm a coach and say the coach has access to our app, all their players on their team have access to the app, and they basically have, the coaches can make tests. Say they got a game plan. They plan a team that runs a spread. They run this offense. They do this. So the coaches can go in there and make a test, and then shoot it to their team, and then the teammate, everybody on the team got to take the test, and then the coach can go in and see who knows what, as opposed to wait until game day and find out that you've been sitting here all week shaking your head when I talk to the whole team. Hey, y'all know what this team run on this play? And they shake their head like they know, but in actuality, they don't know until they, get out in the game. So that, if they're using the app, say that, they make a test and have these plays on there, it'll mess around and show the coaches, hey, this kid got a 50-some%. He don't know what he's talking about. All right, let's begin practice. All right, let's run. Let's go back over it. I'm gonna call that kid out. Hey, you don't know what you're doing on this play. Show me what show me what you know. So ain't no hiding. So it's it has that function that can help them coaches out. And right now,
You wonder what this was when we were in high school.
Man, this has been real big help.
Wouldn't it? That 1-9, that 1-9 wouldn't have been that bad.
Oh man.
I still blame Marv Wilson for that. Man. He jinxed us every week. Like I couldn't. Love Marv Wilson to death, but he jinxed the whole team when he did that. That man said we was going 10-0. We had the team for it. Don't get me wrong. We actually did.
We had a squad though. Yeah.
The problem was we all weren't playing as a team. A lot of us had our own agenda, and then a lot of us wanted to win, but that plus coaching plus the fact that Glenville was getting into their prime, it was kind of a snowball effect, and it went from 10-0 to 9-1 to 8-2. Every week we lost, Marv Wilson had the same speech. Every week he said that we ended up losing except for one game.
Man.
And now listening to you say you got an app that actually tests you and quizzes you, I'm really mad now because I'm wondering what the hell this was when we needed it.
I kind of wonder what some of the teammates would have got.
I don't even want to know. I want to know what I have been okay. Because I used to bug my coaches in high school. Ronnie will tell you, I used to bug our asking questions like, now, what if they do this? How about if we do this? Or could I get away with doing this? I wouldn't even need, because I'd had an app. Just, all right, so if they're going to do this, I'm going to just do this here on the app.
But see, here's the problem with, and it's funny you mentioned that because, you know, some of the coaches would explain it and some of them would be like, Mel, don't even worry about that. Just do what I say, man. Just be right here, you know, and you good. And I'm like,
that's not how it works.
Just execute, Mel. Just execute.
Yeah, and I got executed right into alignment. Like I couldn't stand that. Like Coach Barnhart, love him to death. He would be the first one to say that.
Oh,
just execute the play. Just execute the play. You'll be okay. All right, I'll execute the play. Don't know there's a pulling guard. Execute myself right into him. And I ain't but like this big playing corner. So now I got to worry about, all right, he said execute, but what if this guard pulled again? I don't know how to, you know, I don't know that it didn't know back then what I know now that you could have did, and he didn't relay that information. So now I'm like, listening to you, I was like, man, this app should have been out 20 years ago. I'd have been all right.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that. Can't wait to see that, Coach. Seriously.
Just go to ballclass.com. Y'all can see, you know, what the app shows. It has some screenshots and stuff on there to show you, you know, what it does.
Oh,
I'm going back to I'm using this app on all of them. And if they don't, if they don't get at least 50% right, I'm cutting the whole team.
Man, ball class. Okay, I'm putting that in my notes now.
He ain't gonna never have a team because they better all pass.
Feel it.
And I'm being nice. You either get a 50% or I'm cutting you.
See, if you guys 50%, then I know what I gotta go over as a coach when we get in practice tomorrow. Like if we have practice on Monday, and I say, all right, when y'all get home, make sure y'all take the quiz on spread or on trips or whatever. If y'all got 50%, shoot, coach would be like, hey, all y'all running tomorrow, so y'all better keep taking that test until you get at least 60, 75 or something.
Hey, Mel, you know who need that test, man?
Who?
Sendeo.
Oh, my God.
I'm sorry, man. I couldn't help it. That brother.
Hey, no lie. No lie. We're not lying to you when we tell you this. I'm actually also a writer for ClevelandSportsTalk.com, so I've seen this firsthand. They actually have, I don't know if it's still up, but the projected goal was to hit 2,500 signatures. They had a petition to get rid of Sendejo of the Browns because his play was so bad, especially in the Dallas game.
It was on change.org.
Oh, damn, you remember the dude, man.
Oh, yeah. I was so bold with it. All right, EJ, I got to tell you. So
you signed it on the show.
I was so upset. I'm like, I'm going to sign this live on the show and show everybody that I put it in there and hit enter and everything. And I even broadcasted it and said, go to that site. Here's where you sign it. That's how bad it was.
Well, and you know what? I feel bad for him because he really was put in a bad situation to begin with because
yeah, he was.
You know, Greedy Williams got hurt. You know, Harrison stayed hurt.
And
yeah. So it's like it's not really his fault because he was technically supposed to be a second stringer, but you know, as we've been saying all season, COVID fucking everything up. So it's no secret when one person's down, it's the next man up. Unfortunately for Dale, he just happened to be the next man up, and they've been taking advantage of it. So when we came across, it actually came up in the Cleveland Sports Talk group chat, and I was like, "What is this? Everybody they keep saying assignment." I'm like, "What is this?" I click on it. Get rid of Sendejo was the topic. I don't know if they might have changed it, but get rid of Sendejo was the first top title. And I was like,
Man.
okay, this got to be a good article. Let me read this. No, it's a petition. And it kept saying sign here. I'm like, damn, they really don't like this dude. Wow. I've never, in all my years of playing, have never seen a petition to get rid of a player.
And that was before social media, wasn't it?
No, this is now.
It's right now. So here's the thing. It actually updated, Mel. So they reached the 2,500 goal. They're extending it to 5,000 now.
I don't. Wow.
It's still
really
climbing.
Like
It's literally going up as I'm talking right now. So I'm not going to promote it again. But it's there in case you want to sign it.
Everybody, for everybody out there that really knows me and y'all call me the asshole, y'all hear this, man? He's actively trying to get rid of Sendejo.
I just from a defensive, I'm a defensive guy. I never seen it that bad, man. and this is me talking about Cleveland. So last 20 years, if I say it's bad because they've been through a lot, and it's rough. It's rough, Coach.
I can't say nothing this year. This y'all year right now.
Man, it took COVID to. That's some Cleveland stuff, man. We in the middle of COVID, and you the number 6 team in the league.
Somebody said something. They said this some Cleveland stuff. It'll be very Cleveland for y'all to make it to the Super Bowl and can't no fans be in the stands.
That would be so messed up. But you know what?
Yeah.
But since you brought that up, don't ask me why I'm doing this, but I'm gonna be nice. Shout out to Governor DeWine for actually letting people come past curfew last night because the Columbus Crew did win the MLS Cup 3-0 over Seattle Sounders, and that game didn't end till damn near midnight.
Yep.
And it had to be at least, I would like to say, 3,200 people there draped in black and yellow. So shout out to Governor DeWine for being nice on that part. And from what I've told and from what all the reports are saying, Monday night, Baltimore against Cleveland, he's supposed to do the same thing. There's no curfew for that. So, apparently he realizes how important these two events are, especially to the Browns, because, this would be the chance for them to lock up a playoff spot and get revenge on Baltimore. So I'm with it. I'm cool with it. And shout out to them. Shout out to the Columbus Crew because, as a soccer fan, that was needed. That was absolutely needed.
Yeah.
Okay. Coach, if you want to go, we understand. If not, we do have some topics we have to address. And if you want to stick around and give us your input on them, you are more than welcome. Because, we got a lot to talk about, and I'm kind of upset right now. So first thing we're going to do is touch
4 minutes before baby girl comes in and comes in for a guest appearance. I got about 5 more minutes I can give you before she comes out here.
Cool.
Okay, we'll take that. First topic is the NFL. Last week, if I'm not mistaken, the Chiefs clinched. This week they beat Miami. Miami held on for a little bit, then it got ugly towards the second half. So my question, Ronnie, to you are the Chiefs somebody to worry about defensively against anybody in the playoffs?
Honestly, I feel like from a defensive perspective, with the Chiefs the way they're playing right now, and I saw this, last year too as well. They're just one of those teams that are so good on offense that they just put up a lot of points. And the thing is, whether their defense is clicking or not, Mahomes and the rest of the offense is going to band together to try to figure out a way to get them points on the board. So whether they need, 30 or 42 or whatever it is, they'll figure out a way to make that happen. And he's really good at 2-minute drill too. So, that's just one of those guys where it's like, okay, from a defensive perspective, I feel like you don't have to worry too much about them on the ground. In the air, they're a lot more decent, I feel like. But when it comes to that ground game, I mean, you can run, over them or whatever if you need to, but are you going to be able to do enough to get the actual touchdown each other in the field? That's always a big question because they'll usually hold somebody to like 3 or something like that. So I would say overall they do their job, but they're kind of like in the middle, like 15, you know what I'm saying, 16, something like that. So it's kind of hard to say, but offensively they're going to do their thing. What I will say though is with Miami, let's keep in mind too that they also are a team who is considered for playoffs or in the hunt for it. So it's not like they were, slouched this year or something like that. It was definitely going to be a competitive game from the beginning. So for me, I would say defensively, you still got to worry about them a little bit, but it's more so the offensive side of the ball, man, because they're just some juggernauts right now when it comes to that.
Coach, what about you?
Well, you got to worry about Kansas City's defense. Well, like you said, the thing that happens is if KC putting up points and you as the other team, you trying to keep up with them and you doing stuff that's uncharacteristic of your offense, that's when you get into trouble. The thing that KC got to worry about is can they defend a team that knows how to control the clock? That's how you beat Kansas City. You know how to run the ball that can eat that clock up and keep that offense on the bench. So, like me as a coach, I think like chess. Like I think what somebody would do against me. So if I'm Kansas City, what am I gonna do to stop somebody from keeping my offense on the bench and basically eating up the clock on me? Like what am I gonna do to stop teams from doing that against me?
I was thinking the same thing too. And the Miami, to add to that, Miami did something not a lot of teams were able to do this week or this season, and that was generate turnovers, not just by fumbling or causing fumbles. They forced Patrick Mahomes to throw, I think, 4 interceptions, one of the two.
It was the worst game of the season.
That was very uncharacteristic of him to throw more than one interception, if at all. So, and they came with exotic blitzes, a hell of a pass rush, but the kryptonite for that is, when they are able to score points, they score them in a bunch. And now you're trying to play catch up. So, like Coach said, you're getting out of your norm. I think that was where the fall off came for Miami because, at one point, 17-10, 17-13, I believe, and Miami was right there. The problem is, again, when they start scoring, but they were generating turnovers in the process of that. So I think if a team figures out in the playoffs how to force Patrick Mahomes to throw interceptions like Miami did, I think KC might be in trouble. Because that defense isn't what it was last year when they won the Super Bowl. It's a big drop off, like COVID, a lot of players opting out, even with Kansas City. So I'm thinking defensively, no. I would not be worried because even though playoffs are a totally different season, your defense still in trouble because y'all they're not holding people to 3 points. Miami scored about 20, if I'm not mistaken, or close to it. So, if you can't stop somebody from scoring, even though you're scoring, what happens when they force you to turn the ball over and you can't stop them?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And that's my biggest worry for Kansas City going into this because, again, we know you can score, but can you stop somebody?
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't been able to do that all year. The Raiders proved that. So,
exactly. They exploited them early, and then you get somebody like, because remember when I was talking about this with you, and I said that last game before that when Carr had lost, and he's like, look, I ain't losing next one. And he was just like determined. I mean, that man was ready to run for 150 if he had to win that game. He had a different focus.
Right. And the thing about that is, because we've seen this at every level, once you stop a team that know how to score from scoring, it becomes a problem for them. They arguing with each other, they flustered. I've seen going to the Arena League. I've seen teams hit the quarterback. Man, I'll give you the best example I can give you. Aaron Garcia, greatest passer in AFL history. You hit this man enough, he's going to start yelling at everybody on the team. It's been shown. And it's nothing against him. It's just the type of player he is. He don't like being hit. No quarterback likes being hit. Let me say that first off. No quarterback likes being hit. But when you hit a player and a quarterback on the caliber of Cedric Bonner, Aaron Garcia, John Dutton, in the head, it gets to be a problem. And I feel like if that's Kansas City and they're playing somebody like the Titans, like the Steelers, dare I say the Browns, and they start hitting Patrick Mahomes, whether he's running the ball or not, it's going to be up there.
You remember when Seattle won a Super Bowl?
Legion of Boom.
you remember that matchup going into the Super Bowl, who they was going up against, and it was basically number one defense versus number one offense.
Mm-hmm.
They shut them down. Man, they had a safety to start with first series and threw their whole rhythm off. And what they lose? 49 to 10 or something crazy. So they stopped that.
It was
that high-powered offense. They had an off night, and you can't have an off night.
Nope. And that game felt just as lopsided as, I would say, even the Giants-Ravens Super Bowl.
Oh, man. We not even
that game.
Terrible. I don't even think the Giants. I think the Vikings should have been there because I think the Vikings would have made that a better game.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, because, come on, Kerry Collins? No. Oh, I hated that game. I remember sitting down to watch that. I'm like, the battle of Kerry Collins versus Trent Dilfer.
I was about to say, Trent Dilfer wasn't that much better, man.
No, but that defense. Oh,
Ravens defense. That's all that was. That team playing Kansas City, I would take that matchup every single time.
Yep.
They
manage the game, keep that offense on the bench, and Ray Lewis and all them gonna shut everything down. They're gonna
score.
Holmes doing stuff that he ain't used to doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's only one game. It ain't no basketball. It's the best of 7. If you have
okay. Here's the highlight of the day for everybody. Jalen Hurts gets his first start. Jalen Hurts gets his first win in his first start. Saints lose to the Eagles 24-21. Saints outscored 17 in the second quarter. And the question that I've been getting, the question that's been circulating, is what happens to Carson Wentz if this plays out like we think it will?
Well, I'll tell you this. So they claim, because I was reading reports about this earlier, they're claiming that they're not going to get rid of Wentz. But I don't see him starting another game after this. I mean, even though it was, Taysom Hill playing for the Saints, who has done a good job of continuing to have them win while Breeze is trying to, tend to the injuries that he did get so he can be playoff ready, it makes perfect sense. So you got to take that into account and say, okay, here you have, one of your backup quarterbacks that's going up against these teams. And then to have someone like Hurts come out here who they don't have a lot of film on to begin with because he hasn't played as many snaps. So they have to respect his athleticism, which is part of it too. And then on top of that, kind of like figuring out what kind of scheme to draw for this guy. I mean, you can't really go back to say, okay, well, he did this at Bama and he did this at Oklahoma. It's like, okay, that's cool. But at this level of football, I mean, you kind of just go out there like, well, we got certain things we can do with him. We kind of just got to see what he does or be a game time thing where you're like, okay, we're going to run this, and this, and then hope that it plays out. And I feel like they just were not really able to prepare as much for Hurts. And then he just did some things that worked, Wentz, we already know, is somebody who is not going to run as much. You know what I mean? If he going to run, even if it's 10 yards of green in front of him, he may not run either. I mean, who knows? But with Hurts, man, he going to do that if he needs to. So it was a different feel, different type of quarterback. Not much to look at to get ready for him. They were caught off guard a little bit. I don't know if they took him serious enough either. I think that might have been something mentally happening as well. But they came out with the win, man. Shout out to Hurts for getting it. You
Man,
know?
that's Hurts. That's Hurts' job to lose now.
Yeah.
I say that because Wentz got the money, but
Mm-hmm.
coach, if you don't ride that man until he has a bad game, then that's going to be on you as a coach. Because if you try to force Wentz back in there, and all of a sudden you force your team back into a rut. If Wentz don't come back in there looking like an all-star, what was the rush for putting him back on the field? I understand you paid that man his money, but if you rush him back out there and his mindset, because he all messed up in the head right now, but if he come back and he ain't right, you gonna get fired and he gonna get cut.
Yeah.
And the thing you ride the Saints. If this is the playoffs, the Saints will handle him in the playoffs. They'll handle Hurts in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, you ride Hurts until see if you can get 3 wins out that man before he have a bad game. You go ahead and ride that out. But the thing I can see with Hurts is just like Hurts when he was in Alabama. Remember, he was killing them all season long. Get to the championship. Georgia game plan that man to death. Remember, Hurts couldn't do nothing. And if it wasn't for having Tua on the bench, they would have lost that championship. Because what happened is they game plan Hurts. Hurts couldn't do nothing. And then Alabama was just stuck. So you game plan for a quarterback that can run the ball but can't throw the ball that good. So, but that was the game plan. They worked that to perfection, shutting him down.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get the opposite in there. You get a man that can just sling it, and you got all these athletes at receiver that you couldn't unlock because you had Hurts in there. Then you got throwing it up like backyard football, smiling, running. And that was,
man.
they ain't run no fancy plays, right? They was just running goals. It's you
Right.
go. You game plan for this short, this short field stuff, and then now unlocking our receivers, and they ain't even doing nothing fantastic. They said just throw it up and see if they can get it, and they was getting it.
Now, keep in mind with this, because this division is so shitty at the moment,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
they still have a chance to win the division. I mean, I think they're 2 games back. My computer's running slow. But whatever the case is, 5-7, 5-7. So Washington and New York are tied for first, and then Dallas is clearly not in the chase, but being in that division, they still have a outside shot. But the Eagles are third behind Washington and New York. And the crazy part about that is there is a strong possibility that that division could still send 2 representatives to the playoffs.
Just look at their schedules. That'll tell you what. I think Washington's stronger right now, but it depends on.
I do too, and the game against Pittsburgh showed that, which made me nervous because at the time you lose to Cleveland, you're losing to Baltimore, you're getting throttled by both teams in an essence. And all of a sudden, you have this surge after putting Alex Smith in, who, by all accounts, still a great quarterback. I would have loved for them to keep Haskins in because they were winning with Haskins in. But that's not my call. But even with that, they've shown they have a defense. The defense has come along within the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they came along at the right time against the right team. And now you see that this could be a problem getting into the playoffs because this was basically Seattle back in 2005. They suck as a team. Then they surge on the second half of the season. And then through the playoffs, the defense comes alive, gets stops, gets turnovers. Hasselbeck turns into, the greatest Seattle quarterback since Dave Craig. And they make it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And now they're leading, they're leading the division by a game. and in some cases for Philadelphia, it's 2 games. So I'm wondering, is this a team that you want to see if you're in the NFC playoff at all?
Depends on what you bring to the table. If you the Saints with Breeze, why not?
But who's to say Breeze will be healthy by there? He broke 11 ribs, man.
Yeah, if he healthy now. If you got Tyson Hill, he gonna stink in the playoffs because you can game plan that man in the playoffs.
Yeah, you can.
You got James behind him. If Jameis Winston was any threat, he'd be starting right now.
That's true too. I forgot.
That's true too.
The team. I did. I
Because
forgot.
remember he came in when that injury happened to Breeze, and then next game they was like, we're not going to start you. We're going to put in Taysom Hill.
Man,
We know you took them snaps, but we want to put ourselves in the best position to win. So
you got James who done started these games, and you got Tyson Hill who probably threw like 7 passes in like 4 years, and the man 30-something years old. And if
right,
you started for years, how you lose out to a man that threw 7 passes?
Hey, you know what? Now that you
see
say that, if I'm
see,
Jameis, I'm mad to the motherfucker. But then again,
yeah,
I can't be too mad because I'm getting a hell of a check for sitting behind him. But at the same time, just to hear that, I'd be mad. I'd be punching Taysom Hill in his face every time we hit in the locker room.
man.
I think Jameis he's such a little goofball. Like to me, it's like he happy to be on a team. Like he ain't got that edge. Like I'm gonna go get this job. Like I came here for a reason. It's like he just happy. He just happy to be on a team and smiling and everything's up. Like if I ain't seen nothing. Like if he get punched in the mouth, he gonna get himself together and give you it right back. He just look like
right.
off. He like whatever. It's whatever. Like I ain't seen no edge to him.
That's true. We're not even gonna touch the Cowboys Bengals game. They both stink, but the Cowboys get the win. I don't think, and I'm gonna just be fair about this. I don't think the Cowboys get that win if Burrow is still healthy and working. Like, if that knee is still up, if he don't get hurt, I don't think Dallas gets that win. But Andy Dalton comes back in. He's out for blood, so to speak, because they let him go. So whatever. But to be fair to the Bengals, I honestly believe if Burrow is still healthy, I think Burrow lights up Dalton and gives him a big finger and sends Dallas home. But Dallas gets the win anyway. The Colts beat the Raiders. Houston and Jacksonville are officially eliminated from the playoff contention. And I believe, if I'm reading this right, reading this correctly, with the loss, with that Raider loss, Kansas City gets the division. Not mistaken. Let me read that correctly. Yep, they get the division by Raiders losing to the Colts. And as at the moment, Kansas City is number 1 in all of the AFC playoff picture. So looks like they'll probably get that first round, assuming Buffalo takes care of business here, but it's still 0-0.
Now, with the playoff picture, because of Philly beating the Saints, doesn't that give Green Bay the top spot now?
You know what? I believe so, but I could be wrong because actually, yeah, it did. It gave them the division.
Oh, the division.
So they get a spot just by winning the division. The Saints already had a playoff spot, and if I'm not mistaken, they will probably lock up the division within like the next 2 weeks.
Hey fellas, I'm about to take off. Baby girl, give me the eye. She ready to go to sleep, so I got my daughter to sleep.
Well, we appreciate you being on, Coach. Anytime you want to be back, you are always welcome back. We thank you again. Hope to talk to you soon.
No problem. I'm talking with you fellas. We'll catch up soon.
Definitely, EJ. Appreciate you, man. You too.
All right, that was Coach EJ Burt, all-time Orlando Predator great, AFL great, most one of the feared defensive linemen in all of AFL history. Glad to be on this with the show. Back to the NFL topic. I want to say, with the NFC, because we already know what the AFC is going to look like. It's just a matter of what order. So with the NFC, I'm wondering, because as of right now, only 2 teams have clinched or are going to be are secured in, even though they won't say it publicly probably till tomorrow night. Green Bay's in, they have the division, and then New Orleans has the division. The Falcons are officially out. Carolina will probably be out behind them, and Tampa Bay is still fighting in that division. So I don't know how that conference is going to play out. We know so far who's in, but being out, I don't know, because it's a dogfight in every division.
True.
Like, you look at the West, it's a 2-way tie, and the Cardinals, if I believe, just won today. So, Los Angeles and Seattle are tied for first place. Arizona's right behind them. San Francisco still has an outside chance. It's a small one, but it's still there. Washington's leading. New York's right behind them. Philly's right behind them. And then Minnesota and Chicago are still fighting in the North. It's looking like it's going to be a lot of beat up teams in the NFC playoffs, man. It's going to be a lot of teams.
And that's the thing.
I'm thinking, like, if Green Bay's smart, they want to finish this out within the next 2 weeks so they can start resting players. I know that sounds stupid to say to most people, but as it looks right now, they will more than likely have the top spot or the top 2 spots. So they'll be either number 1 or number 2. And both New Orleans and Green Bay are tied with the same record at 10-3. So if I'm Green Bay and I see that New Orleans is just lost, I want to take care of business the next 2 weeks. Because after that, week 14, 15, 16, you can start resting players because you know where you're at, even though you still have to win and hope for some help with New Orleans losing the next 2 games or the next 3 games or whatever. But you still want to lock up that number 1 spot. And I feel like if they can do that within the next 2 weeks and make it look good, they shouldn't have a problem because they know, well, Aaron Rodgers knows the road to have to go through them. So I'm honestly wondering who's going to be. Is it going to be New Orleans? Is it going to be Green Bay? Dare I say Los Angeles or Seattle? It's between those 4 because we've seen it within the last 2 years. You can beat Tennessee and drop to the 5th seed in a heartbeat.
And we're seeing it. And we're seeing things unfold now because you figure with the Packers being on top now, right? And which is funny because the Packers, even with that, and I know they haven't said this yet, but I guess as of now, we'll say they haven't clinched yet, but they probably are going to, obviously. And then with the win that Washington had, they're at number 4. Interestingly enough.
But you got to understand, too, the top 4 teams, which are the division winners, are getting in anyway.
Yeah, it's true.
They would technically be the last division team to get in because the only fight that you're really going to see at this point is who's in the West. Is it going to be Seattle? Is it going to be the Rams?
True.
So, I'm not expecting, a miracle to happen, but with Washington going to be the last team in because they're probably going to have the lowest record out of everybody in the playoffs. They're probably 9-7, 8-8.
Right.
They have to win the division, number 1. Number 2, they're going to get a home playoff game because they're a division winner. Now, if this was a normal circumstance, remember, COVID, If this was a normal circumstance, they'd probably be on the wild card end. They'd have a wild, they would have the division. They would host that playoff game, but that they'd be fighting or facing a wild card team, but we wouldn't know who that is until I say week 16, week 15, just because of the way things are going in that conference.
True.
And
well, you figure. I was thinking about this. Go ahead.
I'm just thinking like it's funny to me because once again, in that division, it's a dogfight, and it shouldn't have been. Truth be told, just like everybody else, I expected Dallas to run through this division, if not Philadelphia, because we didn't think Washington had enough. We didn't think the Giants had enough, even with Barkley. Right. And then Barkley goes down, so now you barely holding on to a decent running game. So, we would not be in this scenario, I don't think, if this was a normal circumstance. But because it's not a normal circumstance, everybody in that division is fighting for their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the fact that Washington is proving right now they are the team to beat in that division just shows you how much of a cluster bomb this really has become in that division. Dak's hurt. Zeke isn't who he was 2 years ago. Carson Wentz can't make up his mind whether he want to be a quarterback or a tackling down. Daniel Jones making the Giants look good. He's carrying the team, but does the team have enough offensively behind him to help them get this division back? It remains to be seen. I don't know.
And speaking of which, what it also showed me too was the AFC right now is just a lot more exciting going into the playoffs. I mean, to see what the Dolphins did against the Chiefs, who people probably thought that game wasn't going to be as close. We knew it was going to be scrappy, you know what I'm saying? But to see what they did and to see that even after that loss, of course, the Dolphins, if it started today, would still be in it. It's like, man, okay. So for it to be that close and for everybody to be like within a win or two of each other, even if you're not, the divisional champion in each of the divisions in the AFC, that says a lot alone right there, just looking at that. And you figure like players on the bubble, or let's say teams on the bubble. So with the Ravens at 7-5, Raiders now 7-6, Patriots, they not getting in. They 6-7. Broncos are still being considered for some reason. They 5-8. That ain't happening either. But looking at this a little bit more closely, I should say, Titans clearly being the, divisional winner if they were to start today. So they're still in it. And then, of course, Cleveland right behind Pittsburgh in the AFC North and getting that spot because with them, obviously, they beat the Colts, so that gives them an advantage just by one game. And they beat the Titans as well. So you figure even if it was a wild card situation, those two games could help a lot. It's just exciting to see what is going on in the AFC right now and how close it is. But the NFC, man, it's just so lopsided. You got your top few teams or whatever, and then it's just a bunch of people getting in by default because they won a division or whatever the scenario is. And the teams that came out hot in the beginning of the season outside of the ones you see in the top three are like doing this, because me personally, I didn't think Arizona was going to be just now getting back above 500. If you would have told me that, week 2, I'd look at you crazy. I'd be like, there's no way this team is going to be 7-6 during this week. You know what I'm saying? But looking at that now, I'm like, man, they really are fighting to just be in the playoffs when I thought they was going to just run through the way they were playing coming out. And I don't know if a lot of that has to do with the fact that teams just weren't used to seeing that dynamic between, Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. Maybe that's part of it because this is their first year playing together. So that could be something that was just like brand new to people at the beginning of the season. And as the season goes on, okay, now we got some more film on these guys. We can kind of prepare a little bit better. Some of that was part of it or whatnot, but I don't know, man. Yeah, that's true. Like you have no game plan for somebody who you've never seen play together, right? So looking at it now, I'm just like, man, it's just another one of those examples of COVID, man. What's happening? I mean, it's
Yeah,
anywhere. It's any team's game right now in the NFC, man.
and that's the good part about it, especially in the AFC rather, because the AFC is always battle tested for whatever reason. You
Hmm.
know, you whatever division it is, even if it was the AFC East, you've seen teams fighting because the main teams you had to defend with was New England. Now
Yep.
New England's falling off for the obvious reason, and you see that a lot of teams outside of New England are getting exposed. Ravens, like you said, because that was your biggest worry, and it's come to fruition. Uh, the Colts didn't really get exposed, but they showed, you know, if you have enough firepower, they can be beat.
Hmm.
And Pittsburgh shocked the shit out of everybody by going undefeated for 11 straight games. And you know, they did get exposed, but I think Tomlin will find a way to correct that come playoff time, which is
Right.
something we all know happen. They were going to lose eventually, just like Kansas City. So that wasn't something out of the ordinary. It was just a matter of when was it going to happen? Was it going to happen after they got the division? Was it going to happen before? Was it going to be to a team that they going to see again? Things of that nature. So I understood that one. Also understood, in the AFC West, everybody's tired of taking that ass whooping in Kansas City. So you knew
Hmm.
somebody was going, take them down, and it just happened to be the Ravens. Now,
Now, what I'll say is this too, and this last thing I'll say about in terms of the AFC and the playoff picture itself. So I'm thinking back and I'm like, okay, we were predicting these games and looking at teams like Cleveland, Miami, some of these other ones that were kind of like you know it was almost their time in the division. We kind of saw them up and coming. We knew the Bills was going to be on top this year just because of obvious reasons, like we talked about. But the thing is, looking at some of these matchups that we've seen, how we've had a taste of, playoff contenders going at it during the regular season already, especially in the AFC, like we said, being battle tested. It let me know too, okay, with Cleveland alone, like you need that 1-2 punch with Chubb and Hunt. You need that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's their bread and butter. And you figure when you saw those games without both of them playing, you kind of saw the toll that it took on the offense and what that did and how they had to change their game plan up and essentially force Baker to have to throw more passes and things like that
yeah,
without the play action and without some of the things that we know that they've been doing or that are like really, really clean when it comes to the Stefanski style of offense. So it was just cool to see like, okay, with them getting beat up on when they did play Pittsburgh or whatever, looking back at that game, you go, okay, they came out like firing off on defense. You go, okay, cool, that pick was cool, but then they threw one right back, and you're like, okay, well, that was just pointless. And then going further into that, I mean, you only had the one back and a bunch of other guys who you got this confidence off of beating up on Dallas, and you go, okay, well, this ain't Dallas' defense that you're going to against today. And it just opened up a lot of questions as to, okay, are we still going to run with the same game plan? Do we change it up in the meantime? What do we do? And I think that's the kind of adjustment that they made earlier in the season. So it's cool to see them go on this run of 4 wins straight, stuff like that. And I don't know, man. I just kind of feel like you said, with them being battle tested like that, I think that Baltimore definitely has something to fear this time around. What makes me nervous, well, here's what makes me nervous though. They've already ruled out Teller. So as I said before, Teller was a huge part of the run game, and we saw that with him not playing. And he's also somebody who wasn't playing against Pittsburgh and a couple other teams. So you figure to have Chubb back and Hunt, that does help tremendously, obviously. But that not having your interior line is something that's very critical when it comes to some of these schemes and the way Callahan is running these guys. So it's kind of like, okay, I'm kind of curious to see what Stefanski does with that. And if there was a game that Teller had to miss, it sucks that it's this one. But to have him back, let's say for like Giants and of course some other teams got coming up, I'm like, okay, on this game, I get it. If you do happen for some reason to drop this one, there's still a chance for you. The thing is, though, I guess I'm just curious to see what they do, man. What kind of adjustment they do make because he's done some good things this year with the team, obviously. But this late in the season, who knows, man? We'll see what happens. It's gonna be a good game regardless, though.
I'm calling it right now. Don't be surprised if you see more double tight ends this week. Or tomorrow night, rather. Don't be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
With Teller
I can see
out,
that.
it does create a big hole. But at the same time, like you said, you got Chubb, you got Hunt back. The offensive passing game is efficient enough to keep a defense honest off the run. You got Higgins, you got Landry, you got Peoples Jones coming along very, very well.
Yeah,
I
yes.
would not be surprised if you saw a double tight end because Njoku's been playing his ass off, even though he's spotty here and there. Once again, in the clutch moment, but other than that, he's done his job. So don't be surprised if you see Hooper and Njoku lined up on the field with maybe Jarvis, Peoples Jones, or Higgins in the rotation, and a lot of play action or a lot of Kareem Hunt coming out the backfield and Chubb, going up the middle or something. I could see that, and I could see that working against Baltimore's defense because, one, the defense is depleted. Two, all the players that they missing are still coming back off of COVID. We don't know. Yes, they won last week, but, it was against a crappy team. So let's see how they do against this team. And, again, coming back off of COVID, we don't know how well they're going to be coming off of something serious that messes with the respiratory system. So we don't know if Lamar Jackson will be an efficient runner. We don't know if it's going to take a toll on him to get hit. We don't know. And he wasn't hit a lot last week. So let's take that into consideration, too.
Yeah.
Richardson, Ogunjobi, they were getting to him that first game. Even though, look, people, for y'all watching, I get it. The Ravens destroyed the Browns, put 38 up on them. But think about what happened in that game as well. Lamar Jackson took hits. Lamar Jackson was running and took off and took hits. That's a bad combination when you're coming off the effects of being on the COVID list. This shit is no joke. And I'm not saying that to be funny. You see it. It's canceled games. It's almost canceled college pro season. People that have had it have even said, trouble breathing, very big trouble breathing. So, Jackson and them coming off, Jackson, Ingram, J.K. Dobbins and them coming off of this COVID list, keep an eye on this. Keep an eye on how many times you see Dobbins or Ingram on the field because that could tell a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many defensive players were on it, but I do know defensive players were on the COVID list. So keep an eye on that too.
Prime example. I got you on that one. So to mention one more guy on offense, of course, I was always picking on the fact that their primary target was Andrews. So Andrews coming off of that, we'll see how he is. And as far as questionable, they were saying one of those people that you mentioned defensively is Calais Campbell.
There you go.
So you figure with a double tight set with no Calais Campbell possibly?
Right. There you go. You're looking at a big question mark on both sides for both teams. How is Cleveland going to react to not having Teller? What's the effect going to be of Lamar Jackson, Dobbins, and the rest of the Ravens who were on the COVID list coming back and having to play a full game? You blew out a team last week. You put 30 up on them. You didn't really have to play that much. You didn't really have to play hard out there. So now that you got to play a team who's primed to have a winning record and primed to make the playoffs, you got to play. And we don't know the effects of COVID until we see it.
True.
I'm curious, and just keep an eye on this.
One player I would say watch out for in this game would be Marquise Brown because he wasn't affected by that. So we'll see how he does against this secondary, which is depleted on Cleveland. So if they
Yeah.
can't get to Jackson and he's available, that's going to be something to watch for sure. That's pretty much the most I would say right now because it was mostly the offense that got hit initially, Baltimore, before it kind of jumped on the defensive side. So, yeah,
Right.
like you said, man, it's going to be an interesting game, man. I'm excited regardless, so we'll see.
Not to mention, didn't want to throw this out yet, but I was gonna keep it a surprise. But the Browns will be wearing the orange pants tomorrow night, so just keep an eye on that.
Only one loss in the orange pants.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, man.
From pro football, we moved to college football, and yesterday, once again, I got let down. I'm getting tired of let down. Yeah, I know, right, Squeak? First off, the first line of business that got screwed up was the SEC title game. Not so much that Florida's not going to be in it, but Florida lost momentum going into this game against Alabama, which is something that they needed by losing to Florida, who's unranked, and they're going to cancel the season next week. That's it. They finished. They were going to throw down on the season. It was reported earlier this week they were going to throw down on the season, and this is how they go out for the rest of the season. They beat Florida 37-34.
It's crazy because, like, I was looking at that and I go, okay, they're still in the title game against Bama. And then, of course, Georgia has to, I believe, make up a game this week. So they'll play, but it's just to be playing, you know. And then Florida drops down to, what is it, 11. Georgia goes back up to 9 or something like that. And then on top of that, you know, Bama steamrolling. So they'll come out. And then I guess for me, it's almost like, okay, what do you do with Texas A&M? They just sitting there at 5. Like, what do you do with them? Because I mean, they're not going to be in a title game, so they can't really do anything unless you know Jesus is playing with Florida and they beat Bama in the SEC title game. That's the only way you would even think to have a shot to get in the playoff, unfortunately. But it's like, what do you do with that team? Because this scenario is all jacked up now. Because you got, okay, we saw USC, they pulled it off, right? Cool. Great. But then Colorado, they messed
Don't
up.
even mention fucking Colorado.
Couldn't it? I had to say something, man.
Oh,
I mean,
man. I didn't even bring that up, bro. Like,
it's almost like, will they have a representative? I don't know.
that was going to be the most interesting scenario in that conference for me. I was banking on fucking Colorado to be undefeated. You knew the USC UCLA game it was honestly going to be a toss up. We knew that.
Yeah.
It was just a matter of who was going to make the last play. It ended up being SC. I have no problem with that. I have a problem with Colorado because for those watching, let's look at reality. Colorado has not won a national championship since 1990. I was 4 years old. How do I know this? Why do I know this? What made me bring this up? Because that was the last time Colorado was relevant in the world of college football. On
True.
top of that, think about people who were on that team. Cordell Stewart, Eric Bieniemy, who's now a coach with the Kansas City Chiefs. And, you know, they were the first team in a long time out non-conference to come into Michigan and beat Michigan. So, you know, you lose that steam. You were in the Big 8. You didn't merge and join into the Big 12. You've been bullied your entire stay for the most part in the Big 12. You leave and go to the Pac-12. Why? I don't know, but whatever. And on top of that, you have a chance to get to the title game for the first time in a long time. and you blow it. You were up 21-7 going into halftime, and you blow it. Utah comes back with a surge unlike no other and beats the brakes off. Excuse me. They beat the brakes off of you. What excuse can you give? Or I don't even want to hear the excuse. I just want to know why you blew it. You had the defense. You had a good enough offense. You were at home. Why? What reason did you have to blow that? Because they were going to make you play that SC game again because you were both undefeated at the time. All you had to do was just beat Utah, wait to see who takes care of who in the USC-UCLA game, and if UCLA came out, great, works out for you. If USC came out, you know what you got to do. They're going to make that game up. You're going to play that game. So they would have pushed the game. They would have pushed the conference game back. They would have had to. We would push the conference game back, and then you play USC. Winner goes to the title game to see Washington, who is very beatable. Very beatable. And to answer your question, looking at the rankings, I would have to say it would have to be talk of the Pac-12 sending a representative should the football guys come together and say, you know what, we're going to make it work. We'll figure something out. What I mean by that is there would have to be an act of God because we already know, for the sake of this discussion, we already know Notre Dame and Clemson have to play again. They have to. And that's the conference title game for the ACC. I'm going to assume with all of my heart, as a Buckeye fan, that the Buckeyes are going to steamroll Northwestern, even though I did pay attention to something, and I was talking to Josh about this the other day. Shout out to Josh. We were having this discussion on the Cleveland Sports Talk, and he said that Northwestern had only thrown the ball 12 times against Illinois.
Wow.
And I caught that, and then it made me think they had to do that on purpose. And the reason I'm saying they did that on purpose is because the starting running back is out. They got one freshman, I believe one or two freshmen playing running back that scored touchdowns yesterday. So what I'm thinking is this was that game where they had time to work on something. And if you're a team who has to play another team who's good at ball control, who's also good at scoring, what is it that you need to work on to keep that team off the field? Running the ball.
Yep.
So if you're Northwestern playing Illinois, you see Ohio State in the conference title game, what are you working on? The run game. We get it. And again, I was saying this to him the other day. Yes, Northwestern made it in 2018, but these two teams are two totally different teams, a different scenario.
Exactly.
I'm going to assume Ohio State takes care of business because they need to be in this playoff because there's nobody else. Granted, Texas A&M is waiting in the back door. So is Cincinnati. They get steamrolled. Honestly, if they see Notre Dame, Clemson, or Bama in the playoff, they get steamrolled. I'm sorry. But this also brings up the discussion for an 18, 16, or 16 or an 18 playoff that is, in my mind, is coming within the next year or so. It's going to be here because there's too much talk. There's too many undefeated teams that don't get respect, and it shows. But for Texas A&M, the only way they get in, honestly, is if 3 out of the 4 have to lose and lose badly.
Yep.
And what I mean by that is Bama has to get blown out by Florida. Not likely.
Nope.
But that would be the scenario. Notre Dame would have to get blown out and utterly destroyed by Clemson. Not likely, but possible. And Ohio State would have to, knock on wood, get blown out by Northwestern. Possible, but unlikely. So 3 out of those 4 teams losing means you have a shot. But in all honesty, what are you going to do when the team that you beat to get you to number 5, and you've been there practically all season? But what are you going to do when the team that you beat to number 5 just lost to an unranked team? How does that make you look now? Does that tarnish what you've done? I mean, your only loss is basically to Bama.
Yeah.
So, do I think they have a chance to get in? Yes, but that domino effect has to happen. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, because I mean, you figure realistically speaking, we know 3 out of them 4 teams ain't losing. No, it ain't happening. Now the thing is, of course, we know that we know at least one of those teams is losing, obviously, because you have to have Notre Dame and Clemson play each other in the ACC title game. So we'll kind of just see what happens with that, because even so, let's say Notre Dame being undefeated, they lose to Clemson. At the end of the day, if that happens, what do you do then? Because with Clemson having a loss, and then let's say that being, Notre Dame's only lost this season, does the committee then go, I see they lost to you guys, okay, but are they going to like end up messing with somebody and making them number 4? Or do you take them out of the playoff completely, and then you're like, looks like the next people up are A&M or Cincinnati, because you put A&M or Cincinnati in that scenario with them other 3 teams, they get whooped. Right. So it's almost like.
Now, before, I didn't mean to cut you off, but don't get me wrong.
No, you good.
Let me make this clear. UC is not a bad team. Cincy is far from bad.
Right.
What's the problem is the conference is bad. This year, the conference was not very good. Navy, clearly, we saw it yesterday. Shout out to the Army. Go Army, beat Navy. Navy shut them out for the first time since 1969. Over, 40 years?
Mm-hmm.
And I was going back and forth with my sister who's in the Navy about Navy. And I was telling her, just to throw this out there to show you what kind of year this was. Navy is normally a good defensive team. And I kept telling her she needed to go back and watch that BYU game, because that BYU game told you a lot about Navy for this season.
Exactly.
Navy got ran through. I had never, in all my years of living, have ever seen Navy have 55 foot on. Ever. And BYU ran through them like a plate of hot Indian food. So that showed you where Navy was. Tulsa, okay, you'll see them in the conference championship, even though you were supposed to see them this week, but the game got canceled. SMU, you went to SMU and beat them, but they keep teetering in and out of the top 25. So it's like, are they good? Are they not good? I am really pushing for UC to leave the American Conference and just join the Big Ten and replace Rutgers or Maryland, either or. Technically, I say keep Maryland for basketball, but again, we don't run the conference. But I'm really pushing for Cincy to move up a conference, because I think they can handle it.
Oh yeah,
and it would help people to see. If not, join the Big Ten, join the MAC. Worst case scenario, you be closer to home every team you play. You can still schedule those non-conference games and get a quality win or 2. And, even in the Big Ten, the Big Ten showed you there are quality teams. Indiana. I don't think Indiana's going to change. I think this was a for real year for them. Even with COVID, I think they'll come back strong next year too. I believe Wisconsin. I believe in Northwestern to a degree. Don't even get me started on Michigan, because I read today they will be playing I don't know how true this is. I still got to look this up, but I did see a report that they will be playing Iowa next week. Don't quote me on that, but I did see a report somewhere about that.
Man.
You didn't want that ass whooping from Ohio State, so you schedule Iowa for next week. Whatever. But
Right.
you still can't talk about them without. You still can't talk about the Big Ten without Michigan. Just it's just a lot, and I think the Big Ten this year had to be the most competitive conference. The ACC, you had 4 solid teams: Notre Dame, Clemson, Miami, Carolina. After that, it was a huge drop off. Same thing with the SEC. Your defending national champ is not going to be in the national title picture, nor is it going to be in the conference title picture. That shows you where they at. The Pac-12, it's still out on the jury's still out on it, and I don't see them getting left out this year if Notre Dame wins. Clemson's a 2-loss team. I do think a Pac-12 representative gets put in, assuming it's USC. Washington already took a loss, so 2-loss teams generally don't get in. So with USC hopefully taking care of business in the title game, I do. If Clemson takes that L, I do think they get in because they'll get that 4th spot that moves Ohio State up. We'll see what happens, but I do think that is the scenario that could play out because you can't leave them out. They're undefeated. They're conference champs. That's usually what this playoff is for. 4 conference champs set up the 4 conference champs to go. But as we've seen, the SEC has sent 2 teams to the college playoff, Bama and Georgia. The Big 12 screwed itself. They beat up on each other. So
true.
And just to check the comments real quick, Josh said, I think Notre Dame can replicate that defensive performance. I don't think it was a fluke. If Clemson loses to Notre Dame the second time, they're not getting in. We did talk about this, Josh, and I agree with you because I don't remember who it was we were debating this with in the group chat, but he said, even with Trevor Lawrence being out, they still struggled to beat Clemson. To be honest, who cares if they struggled? They won.
Yep, still a win.
That was the important thing. And, Trevor Lawrence was out, but I kept asking the guy, is that Notre Dame's fault or is that Trevor Lawrence's fault for missing that game? You play who's on the schedule. You play who's on the field. If Trevor Lawrence ain't on the field, that is by far no fault of Notre Dame. So I'm with Josh on this one. I don't think this year for Notre Dame was a fluke. I don't.
Nope.
And when you look at reality, for the longest time, not just this year, for the longest time, Notre Dame has had one of the tougher schedules in all of college football. Think about who they play every year: Notre Dame, Stanford, Michigan State to a degree, Florida State. They played Clemson in the last couple of years. Georgia. You don't make that schedule up in a conference. You can't.
Nope.
Not with a schedule like that. So every year you're seeing Notre Dame, Stanford, Notre Dame, USC. Let me start over because a lot of people don't know this. Let me give you a backstory on Notre Dame. Notre Dame has been independent for over, let's say, give or take 90 years. Notre Dame was going to join a conference. That conference was going to be the Big Ten. They had traditional rivals all in the Big Ten: Ohio State, Michigan State, Purdue. Those were their top 4 rivals. Michigan kept them out. The head coach at Michigan at the time, Notre Dame wanted to join, which I believe was the early 20s, going into the 30s, was so adamant about not letting Notre Dame in. They said, screw y'all. We'll make up our own schedule and we'll see you. And that's exactly what they did. And they've been independent ever since. So you can thank Michigan for Notre Dame being an independent and, making their own way, because that's exactly what they did. And I don't think you have that conversation without, Notre Dame being who they are. And
True.
the fact that this year COVID screwed everything up lets you know how serious Notre Dame was to winning a national championship because they joined the ACC. The only time that Notre Dame is in a conference is during basketball season. They're in the ACC
Yep.
for basketball. That's it. Football,
And they knew
we were joined.
And they knew what they had to do, you know what I mean? Because you figure if you don't have an all conference schedule, like you said, Notre Dame usually has the toughest independent schedule. And what they do, like you said, also, is they play these teams that are usually pretty strong within those conferences. And then, of course, they have their other games where you're like, okay, you got to play a team like this or like that, whatever. I get that. But if they were in the same boat to where they were able to play out that schedule, they still would be battle tested, right? But the fact that
Right.
we had to go to conference only, they knew that a
They,
lot of those powerhouses were being lost to the fact that they were going to conference only. So for this year, it's like, okay, let's negotiate something. Let's join the conference for this year and see what that does. And not only do we join the conference, but we end up getting some quality games out of it.
and Josh sent me a comment, sent me a message. He said he likes Notre Dame being an independent. It allows them to have a top schedule because they're not tied down by weak opponents, which is true. And they weren't going to change that until COVID hit. So
Yep.
because COVID hit, they did not have a choice because 90%, just like BYU, 90% of their schedule got wiped out in an instant because everybody went to conference only. And then even then, you see what conference only did. It exposed a lot of people. And especially LSU. I hate to say it, but it did. You're the defending national champ. You're supposed to come in, have a good shot. Nobody had a tune-up game. Nobody had a team you could beat up on. It was all people you got to see every year. What happened? They lost. They lost again. They won one and then lost two more. They got lucky and beat Florida. I think Florida was honestly looking past LSU to I think they were looking past LSU to Bama, which was a bad idea. Whatever the case was, it showed that they were going to have some problems. With BYU, I don't think their schedule was weak by any means. I think what it was the committee did not believe in them enough to put them in the top 10 at least.
True.
Whether that's fair or not is not up to me to decide. I do think because of this, and keep in mind, that was a damn good BYU Coastal Carolina game if you didn't see it. It was very, very good. That game literally went down to the last wire. They did bounce back and beat San Diego State. Coastal Carolina got their win, moved up to the top 10. They're now 9th. It's just a matter of time before you see a 16-18 playoff. But I don't see to answer this question. I don't see Texas A&M getting in unless Clemson is a 2-loss team. I don't see Cincy getting in unless they blow out Tulsa in great fashion. I think this stays the same. The only game that's really up in the air for real is the Clemson Notre Dame ACC title game. And I want to see this game just for the simple fact, can Notre Dame do it again? I believe so, because I don't think that was a fluke. Trevor Lawrence is in, but you're playing the bottom half of the ACC schedule. You don't really have much at that point. You're not battle tested.
Not at all.
You're not battle tested like you think you are. And it's just, I don't know. I'm interested in seeing that game. That's the only game outside of the Pac-12 title game. That's the only game that interests me because I told Josh this. We have these discussions from time to time. I told him expect this top 10 to change, and what I mean by that is you're not going to see the same teams in. Some of these teams are going to move up. Some of these
Yep.
teams aren't. Oklahoma plays Iowa State in the Big 12 title game. Iowa State is currently 8th. Coastal Carolina makes it to their conference championship. I forget who they're playing off the top of my head, but they may move up. They may win it and move up. On top of that, you may see USC move up after the SEC title game because they're 13th. Undefeated,
True.
but 13th. I don't know how that happens, but whatever. It's a lot that's going to change. I don't expect the top 4 to change a lot, but after the championship Saturday, we'll see. All right. From our last topic, from NCAA, we moved to baseball. And as we said earlier, it was reported that the Cleveland Indians are going to drop their name, Native American imagery, and their logo and mascot. I'm done with Cleveland baseball. I'm done. I can't. It's too much.
I mean, for me, I feel like, I guess when it came to I thought they dropped the imagery already.
They did, but, if I'm not mistaken, only in the team shops were they still selling images of Chief Wahoo.
Team shops. Because, I was going off of, like, the game jerseys.
Yeah.
It was old school.
Yeah, they were, last time I looked, they were still selling hats, T-shirts with Chief Wahoo's imagery on it. But at this point, what was wrong with just keeping the name? Like, it's I get it. It's cartoonish, and it may offend some. Wasn't meant to offend anybody. For those watching, give you a brief history. The team got the name changed after the 1919 season. There was a Native American on the team, Louis Alexis. The team was renamed to the Indians in honor of him. Chief Wahoo's imagery didn't start appearing until after the 48 season, when a guy who was a Native American chief, by the way, in the name of Chief Thunderwater, gave the team his blessing in 48. They ended up winning the World Series in 48, beating Boston. And ironically, the chief is actually buried in the cemetery across the street from the stadium. Now, the reason the imagery of Chief Wahoo looks so funny is because they were trying to actually depict Chief Thunderwater's image, but because there was no decent picture of him, that was the best that they could do. I get it. It's not going to be well received by many people, but that's what it is. A lot of teams have Native American name imagery, the Braves, the Blackhawks, and a lot of them, the only professional team that does not have a tie to Native American history or a Native American tribe is Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs are the only team with no true Native American ties. Blackhawks, Native American ties. The Braves don't have Native American ties, but neither is their imagery offensive, nor is the team name. The Florida State Seminoles, you already know. Seminole Nation signed off on that. They back the university. Utah Ute, out in Utah, college football, same thing. They back the university. University of Illinois, it's a toss-up, but the Native American tribes around there don't really have a problem with it. I don't get why this was such a big deal for the Indians, but it's going to be the end of an era. Sad to see it go, but what you going to do?
Yeah, man. It's almost like, at this point. First of all, I'm thinking to myself, what's the team even going to be called? I mean, are they going to be the Cleveland baseball team? You know what I'm saying? Like what are you going to call them?
I would
You know,
refuse to say baseball team in Cleveland. I refuse.
I just like man, and you know it's funny because like people were talking about that. They jumped on that train when Washington did it, and you know it's one of those things where like okay, I get it. You know, we have a lot of injustice and stuff like that that happen in the country. You know, this whole uprising of like BLM, all that stuff. But my thing is like, you know, to do this now, it's like, was this really in the works? Like, are you
I believe.
just kind of getting around to it? You know, I
I,
don't know.
I believe it was only because if you saw what happened last year or the year before, whichever one it was, when we hosted the All Star game, that was you sold your soul to get the All Star game, and what I mean by selling your soul is you gave up Chief Wahoo's imagery for the All Star game. If it was any other reason that you gave up Chief Wahoo's imagery, I'd have said, okay, cool. But I was working a lot downtown at the time when we got the All Star game. And I was working the day of the All Star game, and I saw, you know, droves of Padres, Twins, Yankee fans just for this one game that we barely get. We hadn't hosted it since '97.
Yeah, true.
And I get it. You want to host the All Star game, you want to host the World Series, so that's money coming in, but you don't give up your team for that. And what I'm explaining is if there's a part of you that needs to, as an owner, get rid of something to bring more money in, you shouldn't be doing it because you have a diehard fan base. Just like the Browns, the Indians have fans all over.
Yeah, true.
Not only that, historically, the Indians are a charter member of the AL. So they're basically a charter member of Major League Baseball. They're one of the oldest teams in Major League Baseball. You don't have to sacrifice something for that. That's just my personal belief. Unless it is so far offensive and so far beyond, you just can't forgive it. Then, okay, get rid of it. There was so much you could have did with this. You could have changed. You could have, yes, get rid of Chief Wahoo. Okay, fine. You could have changed the logo. You could have kept it at just the big eye. The big eye or the block suit. That's fine. I'll deal with that. But dropping it just because you saw another team drop it, and let's be honest, the Redskins logo was nowhere near offensive. It was just a
No,
Native American. It was just a
right.
Native American. That's it. He wasn't looking funny. He didn't, throw up no gang signs or nothing. He didn't have no blood on his hand. He was just a Native American with a feather coming out the back. That was it.
And it was actually very accurate the way it looked. I
Yeah.
mean, you look at
And
that, the
it was a Native
Blackhawks
American that
logo.
drew it. It was a Native American that drew it.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's like, and these images they had, like between that and the Blackhawks, you know, they're like in battle dress. You know what I'm saying?
Not
Like,
not only that, what was so offensive about the Redskins besides the name? What was so offensive about the imagery? What was so offensive about, or what is so offensive about the Blackhawks imagery? Because the Blackhawks have already said they're not changing anything, and I support that because nothing about their imagery, nothing about the name is offensive. That name came from a Native American chief named Blackhawk. It also came from the owner who served in World War One. His division was named the Blackhawks. His battalion was named the Blackhawks. There's nothing offensive about it. So I'm feeling like this was one of those spots where you were reaching, and there were people who were pushing for you to change it, and you just said okay.
yep,
And I don't like it because you shouldn't have to be pushed to change something. If you change it on your own, fine. But if you're being pushed to change it, what's the purpose of even having it?
exactly. It's just like it just to me it felt like a bandwagon thing, you know. Because the thing is, like, okay, there's been different protests. There's been, people speaking up about it or whatever. There's even been folks out here who get offended even though they're not Native American. Hate to call people out like that. No, I just see it. Like, I'll be on a timeline or something like that, and you mad, and you're like, you're not even Native. Never mind. You know what? Maybe I shouldn't go too deep into that, but I'm just
No,
saying, man.
no,
There's some folks. There's
you're
some folks
absolutely
more offended than the actual Native Americans.
right. And the thing about it is, did you ever ask these people if they were offended, or are they worried about more other issues that are actually important?
Right.
I
It'll be
worst
interesting to see what they call them.
worst case scenario, if they're gonna drop the name and all of that, I'm all for the Spiders. That's the only name I'll accept outside of the Indians. I'm just being honest. That's the only name I'm going for.
Yeah, go back to the old man. Might as well at this point, but dang. It better not be something terrible, bro.
Oh, it will. Knowing the Dolans, they usually don't make very good decisions when it comes to the team outside of, building the team and then letting the players go to other teams. But
Exactly.
I, I, I'm not gonna sit and say that this was a bad move. I'm not gonna say this was a good move. I'm gonna say I think they should have put more thought
Yeah,
in. And
definitely.
I'm strongly on board with putting thought into this because there are so many teams at the college level and at the pro level with Native American imagery or names, and so many more teams that you did not know had Native American imagery in their team's history that you could have figured this out. And
Exactly.
I not only am I mad about it, I'm hurt because as a fan, I grew up with the Indians. You know, you want to be able to tell your children about the Indians, not the Spiders or the Cleveland baseball team. Just like we grew up with the Redskins. I don't want to tell people. I don't. I refuse to say the Washington football team. That's not who I grew up with. And you know, I was I was with Dan Snyder because he held out for as long as he could
Hmm.
until until the Nike thing hit.
Yeah.
And for those watching, uh, Nike threatened to remove Washington anything if they didn't drop the name.
Hmm. So when that money started going away, you're like, all right, well, at this point, I gotta let it go, you know. So, but yeah, man, I'm the same way. I feel like, I can't say that it was bad. I can't say it was amazing or anything like that. I'm kind of like in the middle. Um, I do wish there was a little bit more creativity going into that. And overall, man, I'm just really curious to see what they do with it. It's like, let's say you change this name, right? It's like, are you keeping the same colors then? Are you going to change that too?
If they do that, then it's a wrap. You're not. It's going man.
You know what I'm
You do
saying?
you do not want that shitstorm that's gonna come behind it.
Yeah.
And that's just honestly what it is. It's gonna be a shitstorm. And I'm not saying that to be funny, to be a dick, anything. Think about that. You think about all the Native American teams or Native American imagery that you see about teams that actually do have Native American ties. I can tell you
Hmm.
right now, uh, let's just start it off again in college. Florida State, Utah, Central Michigan. Those are the top three that come off the top of my head. Now,
Hmm.
you go to the Blackhawks, you go to uh, the Braves. It's so much there, and a lot of these teams actually have Native American ties. They got their name from somebody who was associated with the team. Got the name from uh, a Native American being associated with the team, the area that they're playing in. Here's it.
Hmm.
Here's this current LA basketball team was once named the Buffalo Braves. It's an LA team, but it's not the Lakers. Only one other LA basketball team.
Oh yeah, the Clippers.
Yeah, the Cleveland Indians were also a football team. Uh, who else? The Golden State Warriors had Native American imagery before they went to what they have now, which is the Bay Area logo. The Atlanta Hawks were originally the Tri Cities Blackhawks. It's just giving you guys an idea of history behind some of the team names. Believe it or
Yeah.
not, here's an interesting one. We talked about this months ago when we first started having this conversation. Here's a very, very interesting. The Huron Indians, who are actually in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. There's an exhibit on them, and you can actually see it. Jim Thorpe organized that team, founded that team. They were named the Huron Indians because that team was predominantly Native American. They're
Hmm.
the only Native, fully, recognized Native American team in all of pro football. So
Man.
yeah, you can't just erase this kind of history, man. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Chief Wahoo wasn't offensive to some people. I'm saying there was a better way to go about these things. Don't push people, and don't push because you feel like you want something to change. If I have millions of dollars, I'm not changing nothing. It's mine.
Yeah.
You can't push me to change it because you feel offended. Did you ever ask for real? Sit down with the people that you think are offended, or did you just say they were offended because you wanted to change?
And see, that's what gets me, man, because you figure there's still other teams that are out there that still carry these names, right? So even in the minor leagues. So you have affiliates of, let's see, the Braves, you got the Danville Braves, and then you got teams like here's one for you, affiliate of the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Indianapolis Indians.
Oh, there you go.
Then you have affiliate of the Texas Rangers, the Spokane Indians.
Out in Washington? Wow.
See, the list goes on and on.
And
Of course, we talked about the Blackhawks, right?
here's the big thing about it. Not to cut you off, but here's the bigger thing about it. All of this is Native American territory. Not just one part of the country. All of the country is Native American territory. So
Right.
if you thought you were gonna see a team without Native American names, logos, imagery, nicknames, you're wrong. You're gonna see it. You were always gonna see it. It was just a matter of where you were.
Exactly. And then like even states are named after. My
Yeah,
goodness.
yeah.
Illinois, you
Ohio.
know, Ohio. Cleveland literally sits on the Cuyahoga River.
Yeah. Ain't
I,
no, ain't no English settler coming up with that name.
right. Like I hate to drop like a whole bunch of geography, but it's like a lot of these teams' names were chosen based off of location. And they
Yeah,
wanted to have it, talk about whatever was going on in that area to have an identity with that area.
right.
You know what I'm saying? So I get it because my thing is like back in the day, if I look at, let's say, the old Chief Wahoo logo, right? And
The
then
original.
the
That one
the
was crazy.
original, yeah, that I would have found offensive. Like, it got his weird nose and his buck teeth and all that. The skin was kind of funny looking. Like, okay, I give you that, right? I give you that. That was terrible, you know. Because for me, if I'm Native American, I see that, I'm gonna have the same reaction as me looking at, Mr. Popo and Dragon Ball Z. You know what I'm
Oh my
saying?
God. Ooh.
Yeah, I hate to bring that up, You know,
If that's the obvious,
like that's the most offensive thing I've seen.
oh
Like as a
my God,
child
that is
growing
so
up,
offensive.
like man,
I ain't
I'm
never
just
been
saying.
so offended in my life.
And I didn't even know it was funny because like I'll say this real fast, so I don't want to take too much time. Like growing up and seeing that and watching like the original Dragon Ball, and I'm like 7, 8 years old, and looking at that imagery and being like, something is off about this dude. You just knew. And then to finally have it explained to you, like in school and conversations with family, and you go,
What gave it away?
oh, okay, okay, that's gonna be bad. Least
Yeah.
favorite character in the cartoon. There you go.
Even if he wasn't the least favorite character in the cartoon, it's still like, God, come on, man. Could you be more obvious?
So obvious.
Ah, okay. All right. Before we end the show, want to take time out to uh, shout out a product that both me and Smooth got this past week. Very, very good product. And if you're in training for whatever, boxing, football, basketball, baseball, I recommend this box band. What it is a set of restraints for resistance, and you build strength through resistance. I've been using this for a week. Larry Dickham has been using this for a week, and I recommend this product very much. If you see it on Facebook, because that's how I came across it, give it a try. It is very good. It helps with your endurance to a degree, helps with your strength and resistance. If you're a boxer, you want quicker punches. If you're an MMA fighter, you want quicker strikes. I
Mhm.
recommend this. Just get it, give it a try. You won't be disappointed. Shout out to them for sending us this. It was very, very thoughtful of them. We appreciate it so much. And, just they were the first. So we have to shout them out. They were the first sports product to reach back out to us after we had reached out to them. We had reached out to Nike, Phenom Elite, uh, just just people in the know and in the sports world, and they were the first to reach back. So shout out to Fox fans. Great,
Absolutely.
great product. We greatly appreciate your support. And I'm telling y'all, if y'all want to get in shape, y'all want, just to work out, this is a good workout. After 10 minutes, I was tired. I was tired. Man, I see why boxers be so, man, see why boxers be winded after 3-minute rounds. This is workout. But shout out to them again. For those that want to see it again and want to grab it, box man, go out and get it. Great product. All right, that concludes our show for tonight. Um, right now, the Steelers are actually losing 9-7. It is a very tough game in Buffalo, third quarter. But whether they win or lose, I just hope Steelers look good because they need to keep pace with Kansas City. But outside of that, we do appreciate you guys for tuning in. I'd like to thank EJ Burt once again for being on the show, sharing stories and his career in the AFL. Great guy. Hope to have him on the show again. Um, Next week, we will be going back to audio. I don't think we have a guest that week, but I do want to throw out a trivia question for the people watching. And I know somebody's going to cheat, but I do think that this is a good question. Uh, this man is only one of two professional players, to win a basketball championship and a football championship, a pro basketball and a pro football championship in the same year. While y'all ponder that,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, I did my research on this one. So while
Hmm.
y'all ponder that, if anybody can guess the correct answer, leave it on our page. I will post
Ooh.
the question again after the show is over. So once we end the show, I will post it again. If you get the correct answer, leave a comment. If we inbox you, we will invite you to debate a topic with us on the show next time we go live, or we just may go live and invite you on. Depends on what you want to do if you're the winner. So when I post the question, if you know the answer, leave a comment. Josh, if you're watching, no cheating. I know you well enough to know you may look this up. You got to come off the top of the dome. But everyone else, if you got the answer, leave a comment when we post the question, and we'll inbox you directly, and we'll work something out. So for 4th and 15 with Mel and Smooth, I'm Mel. That's Smooth. Peace.
Peace.